Alright, hello everyone, hope you're all well, hope you're all staying safe. In today's video, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different and a type of video which I haven't attempted in a good few years now. Today I want to look into 5 small details that could easily increase immersion in No Man's Sky. Now I have done a video like this before, in fact I think I probably did it about 2 years ago, and I feel like it's time to do another one, especially with content updates coming out since then and the prospect of a summer update being nearly upon us. Now it is important to note that, as the title suggests, these details are going to be very small and some of them might seem kind of insignificant, but at least in my opinion, more often the smallest things are the most immersion breaking, like my micro penis. And it is also important to note that this video is not to hate or to bash, but to rather provide direction for Hello Games. Now as always, before we get into the video, I do really quickly want to plug my Discord and my Patreon, both of which will be in the description of the video. Please do check them out if you feel like supporting me or being a part of the MZK community. Alright, first and foremost, my first gripe with No Man's Sky's immersion. Why are space stations always empty when you first enter them? Now what is funny is that I spoke about this in my original immersion video years back, and still to this day it still bothers me and it still hasn't been fixed. So essentially every single space station which you go into, doesn't matter what system you're in, what type of system, or where you are in the universe, doesn't fucking matter. They are all empty upon landing. Ships do eventually come and go once you do land, but why aren't there already? It's like you trigger ships to spawn as you come into a space station. Maybe we could have some ships already parked up as we enter, or maybe some flying in or out. It just feels so weird to see these space stations empty every single time, and the fact that the second you land some of them starts coming in just makes you feel like you're the center of the universe, and that is not what No Man's Sky is about. This is a very small detail, but it's something that still bugs me to this day, and it would ultimately make space feel a whole load more alive. Can you imagine coming into a space station and seeing ships fly right past you as you're leaving? It will feel like space is thriving, like people are going about their day, doing their thing. It is so simple, but holds so much power. Alright, number 2, no arms or legs in first person. This is a very self-explanatory thing and I don't really think I have to give it a lot of time, but we don't have a full body in first person. We are a floating head. Now what bothers me the most about this is the fact that we have a player model. We have the option to play in third person with a fully modeled astronaut. So why can't we see this shit in first person? Now don't get me wrong, I do love the aesthetic of the floating multi-tool just slightly off to the right hand side. I kind of like it how that hasn't been changed since day one No Man's Sky, but again it just doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially with our legs, looking down and seeing nothing, seeing a full shadow of our body but absolutely no limbs whatsoever. I always remember when older Call of Duty titles had this as well, before they updated their engine and actually got a full body. People would complain about this all the time. Where were our limbs? We are a floating fucking head. And again, we have a player model, just rework first person to include elements of it. I know this might be quite difficult because it is a perspective thing, and I guess it's kind of like a core part of the game, but I have faith in Hello Games. Alright, number 3, all blood for fauna is green. This is a really petty thing. Trust me, like I know how petty this is, but every single animal which you shoot always has green blood. Doesn't matter what type of planet it is, how big they are, how small they are, what kind of weird limbs and fucking abnormities they have all have the exact same coloured blood. Animals are supposed to be unique to a planet. You know, that's what No Man's Sky is all about, this procedural aspect. But why does every single piece of alien life in the entire universe have green blood? It creates this overwhelming feeling of repetition that can be so easily fixed. I mean, it's no secret that No Man's Sky's procedural generation needs an overhaul in general, but this is one of those things that once you notice, you really can't unnotice. And it's not even like this would be all that difficult to fix. It's quite literally a colour change. Have bright blue blood, black blood, red blood, like whatever, it really doesn't matter. I always remember back in the day there used to be mods that used to randomise the colour or change the colour of blood. So if modders can do it about 3 years ago, then I'm sure Hello Games can do it as well. Number 4, storms are not visible when indoors. Again, this is something which I spoke about in my first video, and although there have been some changes and improvements to it, there is still a bit of work to go. Now, this doesn't exactly break gameplay, but in terms of immersion, it kind of ruins things for me a little bit. When you go indoors while there's this big ass storm blowing all around you, the particle effects and the atmospheric kind of fog just despawns. You can see the flora blowing in the wind, and this is what confuses me. So why can't we have the particle effects and the haze that is present from outside? Especially when you leave a building, it always takes a couple seconds for the storm to spawn back in. It's like the game is almost struggling to remember what happened and takes a minute to work things out. Now, I know this isn't exactly a game breaker by any means, but it would be great for knowing when a storm has cleared fully, rather than examining tiny little pieces of grass blowing in the wind. And also, this is something which I brought up in my first video, being indoors and watching this big ass storm blow outside is a feeling of protection and comfort and warmth that isn't otherwise felt. Again, I know it sounds really silly, but it's like when you're laying in bed at night, the wind is fucking blowing, there's rain coming down, and it's cozy as hell, especially when it's in winter or it's Christmas Eve. This is all I'm asking for No Man's Sky, just to be able to see storms from indoors or from a cave or any area that is not outside. Literally fucking game breaking. No, I'm joking. And finally, no footprints or particle effects. So this is more of an aesthetic thing, probably something that would come with maybe a visual update or a variation update, but walking on snow or sand and not leaving marks or even kicking up particles feels so plastic. It's actually kind of grim, especially when a lot of people at this point in time, including myself, have gotten used to this in basically every modern day game, like say for example Battlefield 5 or Red Dead Redemption 2. It feels really strange coming back to these flat textures that don't react to your movement. Now, a really interesting idea, which again, not trying to suck myself off, but I think this would be kind of cool if Hello Games could introduce footprints to No Man's Sky and also make it so they don't despawn. They're part of like the planetary discovery, or like they're part of the terrain manipulation. They happen and they stay there pretty much indefinitely. Imagine landing on a planet and seeing someone else's footprints that aren't yours. For a game about space, and especially since one of the most famous aspects of space we currently have as a civilization are the footprints on the moon, why doesn't No Man's Sky have this? It's just one of those things which you would have thought would be in the game. Yeah, I know it sounds a little bit ridiculous, and again, like I don't know how difficult this would be to implement, but realistically on its own it looks kind of ugly, and then also as a game which is all about space, footprints are kind of a big deal, especially with pop culture, 100%. But anyway guys, I know those are some very small details, and I do hope you enjoyed or at least agreed with them. As always, if you didn't agree or you did agree, let me know in the comment section of the video, and feel free to put in some of your suggestions as well for details that would help with No Man's Sky's immersion. I do just want to say thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. If you enjoyed, as always, leave a like on it. Thank you very much for watching. Stay safe, take care, love you all.